How to live more deeply. So, this is an interesting one because I feel like my life has been pretty intense on its own. Like, I've lived pretty deeply, in my own thoughts, reflecting on things, meditating on things, spending time alone, right? I feel like I've kind of immersed myself into this idea of living more deeply, but most people don't really have that life. Like, my life is honestly kind of weird, kind of uh, unique in that way. And most people kind of don't want that life. Most people want to hang out with other people, spend time with other people, have fun experiences, yada yada yada. But I think there's value. There's a lot of value to both sides, right? There's value to having good relationships, experiencing things with other people, meeting new people, right? But I think there's also value to being alone, spending time to yourself and discovering a little bit more about who you are. And I hope this episode will help you kind of do that a little bit better, to do it more often, to integrate it more easily into your life without completely changing everything. So let's get right into it. The first principle is to spend more time thinking about hard topics, right? Think about topics that don't really have a clear answer, right? It's muddled, it's murky. There's no one size fits all answer to some of these topics. Ask yourself questions that are hard. Ask yourself questions that might not have a clear answer, right? And when you do ask yourself these questions, you start to realize that I don't know anything. The humans around me don't know anything. We're all just trying to figure it out. We're all idiots trying to figure things out. Um, and that's okay. It's okay that I don't know the answer to this topic, that this topic feels uncomfortable, right? It's okay that I don't feel super confident and knowledgeable about this topic. It's okay because it's okay to embrace the unknown and appreciate the fact that no matter how smart we think we are as humans, there is so much more in the universe that we just don't understand, that we just can't even wrap our heads around, right? There is so much left to be discovered. There's so much more that we need to understand. And I think that when you ask yourself questions that are hard, right? Questions that may not have an answer, and you just like ponder and let your mind wander into like around these questions, you really start to immerse yourself deeply into your own thoughts, right? Immerse yourself more deeply into life, right? Spend your time thinking about topics like death, deja vu, love, right? All these really hard topics. I'm not saying like they're bad, but they're just difficult to wrap our heads around, right? Think about time, think about existence, right? Humanity, like quantum mechanics. Like think about things that we can barely even wrap our heads around, like and try to understand it, right? Like why do we have deja vu? You know? What happens when we're about to die? What happens when we die? You might have answers to these questions, like within your religion, within your own self beliefs, but if you look at it from a rational standpoint, right? I'm not saying to forget about what you believe, but rationally, logically, like think about it in terms of what you can observe and empirical evidence. What do you think would actually happen, right? Based off what you understand about the world, what do you think deja vu is for? What do you think that what do you think happens when we die? What do you think love is, right? What is love? Define these terms for yourself, right? Ask yourself more questions that are difficult but make you think, and you'll find that you live more deeply, right? Start to ask yourself how to define the terms that we all use every day. Like you say, I love you too, all the time, right? And how often have you stopped to really ask yourself what love actually means, right? Have you even defined what love is? The dictionary has, but that's not your definition of love, right? So define these words and these huge phrases that we use all the time in our lives. And it'll make the experience of that thing, so your experience of love, that much more deep, right? Because you'll have a deeper understanding of what love is and what love means. So I think that it's incredibly beautiful. It's incredibly beautiful to be able to look out and reflect upon the harder questions, the ones that don't have answers, and formulate some level of understanding, some level of comfort in the fact that we don't know. We genuinely don't know, and we might never know, and that's okay. But we have this perception. We have this somewhat shaky understanding of what's going on. And this just makes you live more deeply, right? You ask more questions, when you ask hard questions. And then the final thing is, whenever I feel like one of the prereqs to living more deeply is by surrounding yourself with other people, right? I just talked about one side of being alone and being within your own thoughts, but the other side is spending time with other people. I think that is another prerequisite for living more deeply. You need to spend more time with other people, but the thing I observe of the people around me at university and stuff is that the time that we spend with others is not actually well spent, right? We're on our phones, we're distracted, we're doing something else, right? We're not really focused on that, being present in that moment with that person. And I think there's a level of beauty to just being present in that moment with that person. And I find that the easiest way to do this is a Robert Greene frame that you can use. It's to have this constant mission and goal in your mind, in the back of your mind, to trying to understand what it would be like to live the other person's life, if that makes any sense, right? If you try to frame your interactions and your conversations with people as, okay, what would it be like to live their life, right? What would it be like to be in their shoes? This is a really interesting reframe because it forces you to ask deeper questions. It forces you to genuinely listen and make them feel interesting, and to actually feel interested and not just like put on a facade of interest. You genuinely want to know what it's like to be them, what it's like to live their life and go through their struggles and experiencing their pain and experiencing their success and emotions, right? When you put yourself into that when you live life and you look under your and you observe your experiences through that lens, you start to realize that everyone's got such a unique life. Everyone's got struggles. Everyone's got insecurities, and that's okay. That's what makes us human. It makes us unique, and I think that's one of the most fundamental levels that you can reach to have a more deeply lived life, right? It's just by stepping away from yourself and worrying about yourself and all the things that you have to deal with, and externalizing it and starting to look inward towards other people and trying to understand them and understand their life and make them feel important and make them feel meaningful. I think that like inherently it's externalized, but it makes you feel a little bit and live a little bit more deeply because you're challenging the norms that society has, right? You're having the deep conversation. You're asking these people hard questions. You're reframing the way that you interact and converse, right? You want to know this person. You want to know them beyond just the surface level and what they say. You want to know them deeply at their core. And I feel like when you search deeply alongside other people, you fundamentally live more deeply. So to sum it up, spend more time thinking about hard topics. Ask yourself questions that don't have clear answers, and spend more time trying to understand the lives of others. That is how you live more deeply. Goodbye.